Yes, here we are. Hi everyone, thanks for hanging out with me in the kitchen again today. We listened to you, so we've gone from Instagram Live back to Facebook Live. I hope that's beneficial for a lot of you. Today we're going to be cooking a sort of variation on fish a la Vera Cruzana. I got lots to say about fish, especially in this time of quarantine. But the first thing that I'm going to do is to cube some potatoes and get those cooking, because we're going to use those as an accompaniment to go with the fish a la Vera Cruzana. Now, you'll notice that I have sort of squared off this potato and then cut it 3 times across. This is a sort of smallish boiling potato. In just a second, I'll talk about more varieties of potato. But this is sort of what I would call sort of my rough way of making cubes of potato. So what I've done is to just cut down one side, roll it over, cut down the other side, another one here, and then the final side there. That does the 4 sides and roughly makes them flat. And then a little bit of that, then cut through 3 times, because that's the size piece that I am going to want for this. And then again, we will cut about, I think, 4 times across, because it's a little bit wider, okay? And then we can take that and cut that into cubes. It just makes it look a little prettier, and at the same time, it will make these pieces of potato cook evenly. I'm gonna put them into a bowl, add just a touch of water to this, and then I'm going to microwave them for 3 minutes. I use this as my sort of steaming technique a lot when I'm just cooking for my wife and I. Then I oftentimes use the microwave to do steaming. I'm also going to blanch garlic in the microwave, so I have a couple of cloves of garlic. This will come into play when we have the sauce. I always will just make a little incision in the garlic on the side like that, put it into a little bit of water, and then we're going to put both of these into the microwave. Now, I always cover potatoes, especially when I am cooking them in the microwave. This cover will work very nice for that. If you don't have a cover like that, then stretch a piece of plastic wrap over the top, poke a couple of holes in it, and then we're going to do both of these for 3 minutes here. So I'll set the timer for 3 minutes. And then put those in there and slide this garlic in alongside it. I've never really done the garlic and the potatoes together before, so we'll see how this comes out. But the idea with the blanching of the garlic is to take away its really strong garlic flavor, that raw garlic flavor that I don't like very much. And so if I have an opportunity to blanch it, which is very simple to do in the microwave, just with a little water covering it, it will take all that away really fast. Now, it won't give you that roasted garlic flavor that I love a lot, which would take about 15 minutes with the whole garlic cloves still in their paper husks on and dry skillet. So you can, if you're not interested in moving quickly through this, you could always dry roast the garlic to do that very traditional roasted garlic, Mexican roasted garlic flavor. Okay, while that's cooking over there, let's talk about fish, because my guess is that even if you're a person that loves fish and often goes out to eat and eat the fish when you go out, that you're probably not taking that home. You're not probably ordering takeout of fish, or you're probably not even cooking fish much at home because, well, let's face it, fish there. So let's talk about frozen fish, because I think that's a really, really good and individually wrapped, and you can buy it in the frozen food counter. And there's many different varieties of this. When you need a piece or want to eat a piece of it, you just pull it out like that and defrost it. Defrosting. That is the most important thing that we could talk about here, because the way you defrost the fish will affect the end result drastically. 2 ways you can defrost. One, the most preferable, is overnight in the refrigerator. So you just take one of those pieces out, put it into the refrigerator, and the next day you can enjoy it, you can cook it. Okay, the other way to do that, which will take less time, usually about an hour or so, is under running water, cold running water. And that will help to defrost it fairly quickly. So I have a couple of these pieces that I have defrosted now, and I'm going to cut them out of their little packages. And we're going to dry them off because these have skin on them, and I wanted to show you how it is that you're going to work with these if you want to get crispy skin on it. Some of you will be the people that don't want skin on it at all. So let me just set that over there. I didn't cut this quite deep enough here, so I have to cut it like that. Our potatoes are done there. Okay, so we'll take this out. You can see the skin on it here. Now, I guess for some of you, probably you wouldn't like that. You would say, no, I've got to take the skin off. I don't agree with that. I think it could be one of the most delicious things, but you have to know how to cook it. So number one, I'm going to get some paper towels over here. You have to dry it very well. After it has defrosted in that little cryovac package or vacuum sealed package there, we have to dry it very, very well on the skin side for sure. Flip it over here. Now I'm just really pressing down on it, not enough to break the flake of the fish, but I really want it to be very, very dry. Lots of people will suggest that you score it very gently across this way to keep it from buckling much. Now this has already been, scaled, obviously. That's the way that would come there. So I'm just going to give it a little score, but I'm not going down very far in this at all. Just barely into the skin. And then I'm going to salt that skin well. That's going to help to pull some of the moisture out of it. And then I've got my handy dandy cast iron skillet here over a medium-high heat, and you're going to make a sauce with this olive oil. That's an olive oil and tomato sauce, so I'm going to put a fair amount of it in there, and we're going to lay this fish in there, and it should sizzle that much, okay? It should sizzle that much. I'm going to grab So I could sort of press this down a little bit to make sure that it stays flat underneath and doesn't buckle up like that. And we really want, now so you notice that there's a fair amount of oil in here. That's essential for this. We don't want to touch it and move it around at all right now. Let's do the potatoes the same way. I'm going to pull them out of the microwave here. Got my garlic that's going to go into the sauce, and you see the steaminess that's coming out here. I would use my towel to grab hold of this bowl here because the bowl is really hot. Sometimes I reach into the microwave not remembering how that bowl is going to be that tight, and it really, really burns, especially because you have a whole lot of steam there. So I'm pouring off that water that we used to steam the potatoes, and then I'm going to use the paper towels again to dry these guys. Let's look at this fish again here and see what it's doing. It's beautiful. Okay. I'm showing you a technique here that is actually really perfect for cooking fish in general, which is to cook it about 3/4 of the way on one side. Flip it over for just a minute so that you can get the top part cooked a little bit. But mostly you're doing everything on that one side where you want the crispy skin. Potatoes go into the paper towels again. And then I'm just going to roll them around in here to take a lot of the moisture off of them. Okay. And then we'll pick this up and put those over there. Now, let's talk about the type of potato that I have here. that potato is a very, we'll call it a creamy potato. It's called a boiling potato. There are boiling potatoes and then there are baking potatoes. Boiling are going to be very, they're going to have a lot of starchiness to them and be a creamy texture. Baking potatoes are the opposite of that. They're going to be a very fluffy kind of texture to them. So what we're looking for here is the creaminess, so I use the boiling potatoes. If you've gotten into using the ones that are called Yukon Golds, they're kind of right in the middle. They're not as creamy as the smaller boiling potatoes, but they're not as floury as a big Idaho baking potato. Okay, let's look at this because I think it's probably ready to turn now. Let's just look up underneath here. Beautiful. So that's what I'm looking for right there. I'm just gonna flip it for a second onto that side. Same thing with this piece here. Let's see what that looks like. It's going to be beautiful and crispy skinned. But I will tell you that you have to not be afraid of heat. A lot of times when you go to a restaurant, my guess is one of the things that you love about the food is that it's cooked over high fire and gets really brown, where the skin gets really crispy. And then at home, you're thinking, oh no, I don't want to do that, and you keep the flame very regulated underneath the pan. But what you turn out is not as delicious because you haven't gotten that, what the scientists call the Maillard reaction, that sort of caramelization that happens when you're cooking over a higher fire. Okay, so I am going to take these guys out here. I should go with this one here. Because I like my salmon to be kind of medium on the inside, and that will be enough for that. And now we're going to start this cooking of the potatoes. So dump those guys in there. This is going to make the flavor of the potatoes really, really lovely because it's going to caramelize them as well. So we're going to crisscross them around in the olive oil. They're browning already. So they're already cooked. That 3 minutes in the microwave was enough to steam the potatoes to complete doneness. So let's just get them a little bit brown now while we're talking about the other ingredients that are going to go into this dish. Okay, so we've got tomatoes as the base of a Veracruzana sauce, and I'm going to use pantry staple, which is the fire roasted diced tomatoes here. And then we're going to add to that some of this garlic, which I am going to just chop up. Set it aside over here. Let's look at what this garlic looks like after it comes out of the microwave. So you can notice right away that the papery skin, it's easier if I just take the root end off of it like that. The papery skin will just come right off of it. And you'll see that the garlic is fully cooked. It's completely soft. I'm going to do that same thing to this one because this root end just popped it right out. Okay, and so I'm going to give this a little chop. And then the other things that are going to go into this Veracruzana sauce will be some olives. And so I'm going to give those a chop as well. Let's look over here at the pan again and we can see the browned potatoes. How about that? Now let's put these tomatoes in there with the olive oil. We'll add the garlic to that pot. And this sauce, a la Veracruzana, obviously comes from the state of Veracruz, which is on the Gulf Coast of Mexico. And it is the place for the last 500-600 years. The Spaniards, or the people coming from Europe, would cross the Atlantic by boat and dock there, and then go overland wherever in Mexico they wanted to go. And there were so many boats coming back and forth between Spain. Most people call that coastal cuisine of Veracruz the sort of Mediterranean of Mexico. You sort of see it sort of happening here. We've got these green olives that I'm going to put in. Green olives are the main olive that you will find in Mexico, usually of the Manzanilla variety. And I'm just cutting across them. If you wanted to use your food processor for this, you could chop them up very fine. But I like the bigger pieces in this. So we'll add that to the bubbling mixture now in our skillet. And we'll be ready to add the pickled jalapeños. So when you think about olives and tomatoes, even potatoes, you would think, oh, that's a very European dish. But the part of it that is the real Mexican part is the pickled jalapeños, which you can buy in jars. I'm using the ones here from our restaurant because we make our own pickled jalapeños. So I'm going to do what I showed you last week, which is just to cut across the jalapeno. And then I'm going to put those into the pan here because they're going to echo that beautiful olive flavor there. And then the juice from the pickled jalapenos, the little pickling juice, I'm going to add a little bit of that. That would be to suit your own taste. If you like things tangier, then feel free to use more of it. And now from my little bundle of flat leaf parsley and cilantro that I've been working on now for a week and a half, I'm going to just put some flat leaf parsley down here. I think I'm going to save that for some garnish over there. And we'll just take this flat leaf parsley and more or less do the same thing to it that we did to the cilantro, meaning that we're going to make a chiffonade of it. So this has got, this parsley has a much tougher skin. So I kind of have to work with mostly leaves for this. So bunching up the leaves like that and then cutting right across. See how I've got the fingers of my left hand curved under here, and I'm touching that knuckle with the knife so I know exactly where the knife is at all times. And I'm just going across those, mostly leaves. There'll be a little bit of stem in there, but I'm going across that and making a very, very thin slice of it. Okay, so that'll go now into our pan here. Now, if you don't have parsley, don't worry about it. Maybe you have a little bit of thyme, dried thyme in your cabinet. Use a little thyme. If you've got some marjoram, thyme, marjoram, and bay are what they call hierbas de olor in Mexico, and everybody thinks of them as the trio that makes anything that is long simmered taste really good. Your chicken soup with those hierbas de olor is spectacular. So if you have any one of those three or all of those three, you could put them in here to make a really delicious, simple Veracruz style fish dish. So we're going to mix all of that together. Salt is going to be a little trickier in this particular dish because we have olives in there and they're going to leach out salt. So I know it's going to need a little bit, but I'm just going to put a little tiny bit of salt over the top of this and give it a taste and see where we are with the flavorings. And I've got a little, you can just serve it chunky like this if you want to. I have a little bit of chicken stock over here to thin it out just a little bit because I like it to be a little saucier than this one. Almost there. A little bit more salt will be perfect. And then I'm going to add a little bit of chicken stock to it. Now you notice that I'm cooking this sauce on a medium-high fire all the way through because I want it to cook down quickly. So there's a lot of people that make a smoother tomato sauce for their Veracruzana, and I like that a lot too. But my real favorite is this real chunky version of this Veracruzana. I will tell you that if you have frozen fillets like that in your freezer, which I think you should always keep because it's a really, really nice thing to do, that if you're running behind and you're going to have some people over for dinner, you can just run those under the cold water for about an hour and they'll be perfectly well defrosted. If you do anything that is like a microwave defrost or a hot water defrost, you're going to wreck the texture of that fish. It's going to have this really sort of dry texture that is not like fresh fish. So that's why a lot of people don't like frozen fish, because they don't know how to defrost it. But if you use one of the two techniques that I described for defrosting it, you're going to have something that's really, really delicious. Okay, let's put a plate of this together. Now, I'm going to set this guy right over here, and this one here. We'll use the same plate here because I think it'll look really pretty this way. And we'll take some of our delicious, chunky Veracruz flavored sauce and put that at the bottom of it. Then turn that guy off. Slide this beautiful piece of fish, and this piece looks prettier here, on the top of it. Take a little bit of the parsley, more roughly chopped than that chiffonade that I showed you before. Sprinkle that over the top of it, and you've got quite a feast ahead of you. There you've got, I'm going to say that that's enough sauce for maybe 3. If you don't like a lot of sauce, you could stretch it to 4. But I like a lot of sauce, so probably I would say that that would be enough for 2. But that's just me. You have to make your own choices with all of that. Thank you so much for joining me in the kitchen today, and I hope you're inspired to get into your kitchen and cook too.